Here's a couple things I would do differently if I could join the military again. I came in when I was 22 years old. I had experienced life for a little bit, did music, stuff didn't work out, went to the military. I started doing things that would be beneficial to my life later. And I wish I would have done them from the beginning. And these are some of those things. I would have maxed out my TSP as soon as I could. I would contribute what the Army would match. At the time was 5%. Now it's a legacy TSP, and that's the blended retirement system. I would have started from the beginning, pumping money into that thing. Not only that, I would have changed the fund right away that I was getting invested into. Because back then when you came in, everything would go into the G fund. The G stood for government. And it would get you a rate of anywhere from 0.5% to maybe 1.25% return. And I'll tell you right now, that's not beating inflation. The money isn't growing. It's doing nothing for you. It's absolutely being wasted there. Now I have the fund set up to C, S, and I. I have 80% in the C fund, which is your large cap funds. Things that are gonna be in the S&P 500, like Google, Apple, Tesla, stuff like that. The S, which is a small cap. Businesses that are starting off, they have a decent amount of capital and hopefully a bright future ahead of them. And the I fund is the international fund. So a bunch of companies that are international, but only 10% to the small cap and the I. So 80, 10, 10 is what I did. And last year my TSP grew by 30%. So yes, right away, I would have started investing in my retirement. Here's the next thing I would have done differently. It involves school. Now, being in almost 12 years and almost 34 years old, I have 2 degrees. I have 1 undergraduate certificate and 2 college degrees, all paid for by the military. I didn't have to pay a cent for them. I have an undergraduate certificate in mental health. I have an undergraduate degree in business management, and then I have a bachelor's in psychology. And I start a master's program this summer pretty soon, just right around the corner. Every single year since about 2020, I maxed out my TA. You get $4,000 a year for TA. I think they're talking about bumping it up to $4,500. I know some other services some other branches get $4,500. Like last year was $4,000 for tuition assistance TA. And FAFSA on top of that too, which I qualified for, surprisingly, even as an E7. I wish I would have done the college earlier because I had to work my butt off, being more senior in my career, dealing with a lot more responsibility, going on rotations, going to the field, going to schools. It just would have been easier. So that's 2 things. 1, I would have invested earlier. 2, school right away. 3, the second I was available for boards, I should have went. My first board, I was terrified. I didn't want to go. But because I was scared, it stunted my growth. Yeah, I made E7 in 10 years. Some MOSs, that's really good. Some MOSs, that's whatever. I wish I would have just put away the fear sooner and just gone and gotten that experience under my belt and taken some of the fear out of it and just did it. Here's the next thing I would have done differently, and it's a little controversial because everybody wants you to do 20 years in the military. Not everyone does. It's hard to do 20 years. I would have came in, gotten those 2 degrees, and left. Yeah, you heard it. You don't always hear it from E7s and E8s and other senior leadership, but I would have started my civilian career sooner than I am about to. Hopefully, I think I might be out within the next year or so, but we'll see about that. I don't know. When I first came in the Army, I was convinced that the Army was the end-all be-all because that's what they wanted me to think. Even still now, a lot of leaders will make soldiers terrified of getting out. They'll say, you know what, you can't make it out there. You need the Army. The Army's easy. If you can't do the Army, you can't do real life, which there's some truth to that. I believe that a lot of the people that are scared to get out just don't have an exit strategy. They don't have a plan. They don't have an exit plan. And that's the other thing, was just planning. I wish I would have just planned my career and my personal life and my family life out just a little bit better. Not to say that I'm not happy with where I'm at now. This last thing's kind of morbid. You know, I'll try to finish it up with something nicer than this, but I wish I would have stayed connected with some of the people that I loved in the military. I have lost way too many friends. And it was all self-inflicted. Most of them. They were dealing with depression, anxiety, anger issues, money problems, family problems, marriage problems. And I don't feel like I'm responsible for how their life ended. But I miss them. I miss all the people from my first unit and my second unit, my third unit. And I appreciate all the friends that I've made here in this new unit. But I didn't know how quickly life could end until I started losing friends left and right. You'd get a phone call, hey, so-and-so is gone. I go on Facebook, hey, so-and-so is gone. To the point where when I saw a photo, just a single photo of one of my buddies on Facebook, I assumed automatically that person was gone. And I guess just so it doesn't end so morbidly, one of the last things I wish I would have done differently was taken more leave. Like I have use or lose dates right now, and I know probably a lot of people that were in or they're watching this right now that are in were in the same boat. They were either bullied into not taking 4 days or not using up their leave, or they just didn't have time, or they think they didn't have time. I would have fought and fought and fought way harder than I did to take that time to use the leave days that I earned, that you earned. You earn 2.5 days of leave every month, and taking it. Take some personal time. Spend time with my family. I feel like I've lost so much time in the military, and luckily it could be worse. It could have been way, way worse. I could have been on 100 deployments, 100 field problems, and all that stuff. But luckily, you know, I've had a pretty good run at things for being in for almost 12 years. But it didn't hit me until later, within the past few years, that I really did lose a lot of time with my family. And that's another reason why I don't think I could do 20 years. And it just makes me reflect on things like this, like what would I do differently? And it's the college, it's the money, it's the family time, the friends, personal development stuff. So hopefully that helped you. I don't know. I know I can't change the past, obviously, but you can change the way things happen going forward. You can change your mindsets, you can change your outlook. You can see things through a different lens once you've experienced it. And you're like, hey, you know, maybe that wasn't the best choice. But if you made it this far and you're not following me, follow me, silly goose.